tell me about the Edwards portrait?
So in 1751, Jonathan and Sarah posed for portraits, and these are the only portraits done from life. So all the others that you've seen are somehow derivative of these. They were probably done in Boston, and they were painted by Joseph Badger, who was a Boston pewtersmith and a part-time portraitist. And these were commissioned by the Scottish philanthropist William Hogg, who was a supporter of Edwards. He was a patron of Edwards. He was one of the people who contributed a purse to Edwards when he came to Stockbridge, totaling somewhere around £1,000. Wow! I know, it was a lot of money back then, but they all understood that he was in financial problems. He had financial problems because problems getting salary from his Northampton congregation, costs of the move, and the Stockbridge position was not very high paying. So he had these supporters abroad, and in Scotland he was in some ways more popular than he was in America, especially after his death, where a lot of his works were published. Let's look at Jonathan's here first. What Badger does here is portray Jonathan he's in his gear, right, for his profession. He's got his powdered wig on. This is the symbol, again, another status symbol, right? This is showing his class, or his standing, right, who he is. And back in 1744, during the so-called Bad Book case, we have these young men of Northampton who are, sexually and verbally harassing the young women with illicit knowledge they'd gained from some midwives' manuals. And one of the things that is a mark for their ridicule at that time, wigs. Timothy Root, one of the culprits, says, "I won't worship a wig," right? And that's a reference to Edwards and to John Stoddard and people like that who were part of the church committee who were doing the investigating. But he's also wearing his academic gown and his Geneva tabs, which mark him also as a minister at the time. And so, this would be his formal garb, in which he would appear on Sabbaths and in any kind of professional capacity. And what can you say about the face? The eyes are kind of looking over you, over your head. The very thin-lipped, very pronounced forehead, because of course you would shave your head to have the wig. He's friendly enough, I suppose, but a little daunting and a little distant there. You wonder what's going on behind those eyes. So, anything else about the portrait you're on?
No, this is
ask about.
I mean, from seeing the Badger portraits at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, one of my questions is, since Badger wasn't a portraitist, some of these unique features you see, is that how true to life was that, or it's a limitation of Badger's skill producing something that
so John McLaurin, who was who was one of Edwards' Scottish correspondents, remarked in this letter to Hogg from 1751 that the portraits are actually very accurate, and I don't know what criteria he used for that, but I guess they were as accurate as you could expect at the time, unless you had someone like Peale or Smibert, doing your portrait. But Badger was not Smibert or Peale by any means. So, they were accurate enough as far as they went.
Yeah. Let's
let's
move to
let's
the
go over
Sarah
to
Edward closer up.
So, the fascinating portrait. You know, Badger did do a good number, and they're still around to be seen. And you know, at this time, you have to think about this. Sarah is 1751. She's 41 years old. She's given birth to 11 children. Now look at her.
Yeah.
She's, you know, slim and fair complexioned and the whole thing. Is this an idealization? Perhaps. I mean, she was described as a beautiful person, and so you know, maybe that's just part of it. But there seems to also have been this, I don't know, this maybe inner charisma about her too that comes out in this, I think. Badger's portraits of other women of this age and this status, these matrons, are usually much more stiff and formal. They're usually not, you know, a plunging neckline. You don't have the hair flowing down like this. They're usually up in mob caps or bonnets of some kind. So it's just like, this is the country gentlewoman, right? Who's looking right at you. And she's got a little smile, and she's wearing rouge, right? Or she's got a little color
Something.
of some kind, right? She's got, again, this plunging neckline with the silk ruffle. And this dress here, this may actually be her blue chintz dress. We have a couple swaths of this dress that have survived in these little 2-inch pieces. The dress was actually displayed at an Edwards family reunion in 1870 in Stockbridge. And my speculation is that when that ended, they cut the dress up and gave it to all the participants.
Yeah, wow.
So one of the swaths is in the Beinecke Library, and the Jonathan Edwards Center has the other one.
Oh, okay.
So is this her blue chintz? It's very possible. So her self-presentation here is really fascinating and engaging. In a way, I think that Jonathan's is a little more guarded, ethereal, or what have you. This is a very down-to-earth person, and yet we know that her religious experiences were, you know, she had these series of ecstatic religious experiences throughout her life that really set her apart. And in many ways make her a radical new light, in a way that Jonathan wasn't, right? So it's a fascinating image to come down.
Yeah. So they would have sat for these at in the same trip about the same time?
Probably, yeah. I suspect. It's because Sarah usually went to Boston in the springtime, around May, to take a break, do shopping, things like that, visit people. And it's possible they went together. We're not really sure of everything. I think the letter from McLaurin to Hogg is dated in November of '51, so just you have to kind of back it up a few months there at least for the something like the timing of these portraits. But they went to Boston a lot. That was kind of their hometown, in a way. I mean, obviously Sarah was born right here in New Haven.
And it's fairly typical for them to, even if they sat together, to get separate portraits.
Yeah.
Yeah. They would have had husband and wife portraits for some time.
Not so much. You don't see that. I mean, you see it once in a while, but it's much more rare. You usually see the separate portraits like this. So
awesome.